Ruthless, Rabid, Raging, Ravenous, Rampaging, Remorseless, Repulsive, Revolting, Repugnant Zombies. I think by the end of the month I may have that title memorized right about the time I don't need it anymore. Again, it is a zombie story, and we're doing about 2,500 words a day. Our goal today is to hit 15,000 words. If you are familiar with NaNoWriMo, then you know you're trying to do 50,000 words in a month. Let's do this, Armand. And you need to get to about 10,000 words today to stay on a 30-day pace. I'm going for a 20-day pace because I want to be done before the holidays and not be trying to write on Thanksgiving and that kind of thing. So I need to get to 15,000 today, which is just about 2,500 more from where I was. We're going to dive into Chapter 8 when we start writing, but I want to back up to a short Chapter 7 and kind of read my way back into the story here. And those of you who've not been following along, then maybe you can catch the drift of it. My goal is to basically make this a 50,000 word action scene. So we're just going for all action, and of course I'm throwing in some things to try to have the characters mean something and all of that for readers once this is over. But we're just going to barrel through this first draft and get the story down as awesome as I can get it. All right, diving into Chapter 7. He clung to the smooth top of the 911 as it bumped up over the curb and the walls of the buildings blurred by at high speed. As he braced himself for the inevitable crash, the Explorer caught up just off to his left on the driver's side of the Porsche. The Ford slowly drifted toward him and the sidewalk, with all those zombies leading out the passenger side windows. Waldo made a decision. He climbed forward and stomped down onto the slope of the Porsche's windshield. It splashed white, folded in, and then broke through in pieces. The Explorer, packed like an undead clown car. I've already used packed up there. The Explorer... Yeah, no, it's fine. The Explorer, packed like an undead clown car, bumped into the side of Waldo's blue rusty ride. As they rolled together along the sidewalk, the zombies leaning out the windows got hands on him, and let's say hands on... Do I need to say Waldo again? Let me just use his name again. Got hands on Waldo and threatened to drag him right off the top and down in between the vehicles on the curb. That would be a painful fall. The Porsche scraped the brick walls on the passenger side. The mirror popped loose of its crushed holder and shattered on the sidewalk behind him. Several zombies turned to face the approaching vehicles as if there were nothing to... Several zombies, let's say on the sidewalk ahead, turned to face the approaching vehicles as if there were nothing to fear. The undead ahead of them folded under the wheels or got dragged between the car and the wall. Gore sprayed, of course it did, everywhere as the zombies were shredded shredded below their chests. Then the torsos broke free and started grabbing Waldo from the passenger side. Oh, come on. Waldo kicked those partial bodies back and off the car as he reached through the hole in the windshield and tried to steer let's say the powerless car at the same time. All right, no power steering, he grunted. It didn't help that he was trying to turn a little Porsche 911 into a heavy Ford Explorer. The zombie hands fell away from him as the Ford bumped away from the curb. Waldo turned hard to leave the buildings and the sidewalk as well. A light post grew... I want to say rushed here, but I've used rush so many times, and grew isn't that great of a word. A light post... let's say flew. Light post flew into his path as the dead car responded slowly. He avoided striking dead on. Let's say head on, since I've already used dead here. You use the word dead a lot when you're writing about zombies, right? All right. He avoided striking head on, but still glanced off it with a jarring hit. The crumpled holder for the side mirror barely missed his head as it curved up and over him. He heard the impact and turned just in time to see the last zombie torso that was still holding on behind him. That jagged ball of metal had taken off half the monster's face. As it went limp and fell away from the car, Waldo realized he hadn't even noticed it was still there. The thing would have had its teeth locked on his ass cheek before he even knew what was happening. The car picked up speed again as it raced down the long slope. Waldo was turned around, still marveling at how lucky he had been. To be spared that bite. And that was why he saw the light post he had hit now fall toward him like a great tree. He had nowhere to go, Waldo whispered timber. The curved arm of the light punched through down into the engine of the Porsche, which was in the back. A second's difference, let's say. Second's difference. A second's difference, or a bit slower, and that would have gone through Waldo's back instead. The car slowed a great deal as it dragged the big light post. Zombies exited doorways on both sides and strolled toward the car and the terrible scraping noise along the street. The blue car bumped the vehicle in front of it so slowly that Waldo heard it but didn't feel it. Still, the bumped car started to move. He didn't need an invitation. Waldo, let's say, sprung up. I don't think I've said that yet. Waldo sprung up, ran forward, and jumped onto the next car as it started to leave the speared Porsche behind. As the hungry undead lost ground, Waldo inspected his new ride. It had a flatter roof to sit on, so that was good. A Mustang? Everyone talked about how cool Mustangs were for as long as he could remember. This was black on top, and this one was black on top and silver underneath, with a red stripe between the two colors. Waldo stared a moment, trying to see what was so cool about this thing. Maybe this was just a bad year for Mustangs, but this thing looked about as cool as the old Toyota Tercel his mother used to drive in the 80s. Well, that's not very nice, is it? Guys used to have posters of this in their rooms. The Mustang hadn't gone far. The Mustang hadn't gone far. That's a big difference. Before it hit a silver car in front of it and started to slow down. Then the Ford Explorer slammed into the back, folding up the trunk. Waldo wasn't sure how he held on. But he did. His neck hurt from the whiplash motion. If he lived long enough to sleep again, he was going to feel that in the morning. "How did you get behind me again?" he shouted at the zombies leaning out the windows of the huge SUV. They growled back at him. All these extra prepositions I'm adding in. I'll be at 50,000 words at no time. At least he was moving again. Then he hit the silver vehicle again. Then he hit the silver vehicle once more. Waldo ran out and off the Mustang to jump on the streamlined silver vehicle let's say car, because I've said vehicle a bunch of times already. Silver car that appeared to be rolling a little faster. Is this a DeLorean? Just like in that movie. But the stainless steel wonder was slowing down again. The Ford Explorer crept forward and gave the DeLorean another bump. They both rolled a few more feet and eased to a stop in the middle of the T intersection. Let's say diagonal from each other. The smashed Mustang curved into the curb and halted as well. Okay, so now we got all these cars stopped. Okay, Waldo sighed and muttered the only accurate part of Back to the Future. Let's make that. The only accurate part of Back to the Future was how often DeLoreans broke down. Little shot at DeLoreans there. Level ground. They had come to the end of the hill. Waldo supposed he should be thankful. If it wasn't for that light post right near the end, he would have barreled into the apartment building straight in front of him. Thanks, I guess. Waldo climbed down as more zombies turned from the other street in both directions. From the other street. Other street crossing this intersection. Trying to keep my descriptions brief but clear here so people understand what we're looking at. So this is the other street at the top of the T on that intersection. All right. Other street crossing this intersection in both directions to see what was going on with the fender bender. Turned out there was a fresh human, so they came toward him to investigate how Waldo might taste. Okay. I'm not getting away. I'm just finding new zombies to chase me. He bent his knees and prepared to pick a direction to run, but that was when he saw her. She sat on the ledge outside a second-floor window, staring down at him. At least she wasn't laughing at him this time, so this is a character he saw from a distance earlier. Her hair was braided instead of loose. Instead of hanging loose, like when he spotted her the first time. Okay, let's say her dark hair, so we can specify it's the same girl. All right, her dark hair was braided instead of hanging loose like when he spotted her the first time. It was a tight braid against her skull, like the MMA fighters used to do. Say like the female MMA fighters. Like the female MMA fighters used to do. There was still one wispy, loose strand. Did I misspell wispy? Oh, I guess so. One wispy, loose strand off the right side. He couldn't tell if that was for style or she just missed it. Either way, even with her hair braided now, he could tell it was the same girl from earlier. She sat perched. Okay, I already said she was on the ledge. Alright. Be sure I stick to my notes here. This girl just sat there, one floor up, outside an open window, watching him. Like she was, hold on, put a comma there instead of a period. Like she was fascinated to see what crazy thing he might do next. Waldo wished that he knew himself. No, I'll just say wish he knew. Waldo wished that he knew. And she was... Well, I got to do a new paragraph here. All right. And she was just a girl. Early teens. Too young to be running around out here alone. But he supposed there was no good age for that. You either lived or you didn't. As everyone else died around you. Okay. Hey, Waldo said. He meant to say more, but nothing came to him. She just shook her head without responding. A gray hand reached out from the darkness of the window. Waldo pointed and again said nothing more than, hey. The dead thing hooked its fingers into the loops of her braid and pulled her backward. Waldo took a few steps toward her ledge, but was too far below to help. Alright. She twisted the arm with several crackles of bones and joints, pulling the snarling undead man, who was twice her size, and spilled him over the side. The reanimated corpse did one flip and pierced itself in several places on a decorative iron fence. It didn't catch its head though, so it reached one hand up at her. Its head lolled back. I think I need to break a paragraph here. It's got to be the same paragraph. It didn't catch its head though, so it reached one hand up at her. Its head lolled backward and upside down. when it spied Waldo, the speared zombie reached for him instead. Okay. Waldo looked up and opened his mouth to say something. Maybe it would be more than hey this time. More hands. Okay, I'm going to need to do a new paragraph here. There's no real like hard fast rule on where to split paragraphs. Sometimes it's just for the flow, sometimes it's a break in the idea, and usually there's a lot of gray area when it comes to that, so you just kind of have to make the call for what works best for the story and the reader. More hands reached out of that window. The girl spun about, grabbed the top edge, I'll say top brick edging of the window, and kicked in with both boots. She dropped out of sight through that same window with the things grabbing for her. "Hey," he said. Waldo charged up the steps. Waldo charged up the steps of the apartment building and threw his shoulder. No, that's not what he did. And tried the door. It was either locked or stuck. He threw his weight behind his shoulder into the door. Once, twice, and 3 times. All right. Okay. All right. Once, twice, and actually 3 times would be thrice. That would be the proper term for 3 times. But I think thrice is too antiquated and fancy of a word for this type of story. So it would stand out in a way that kind of looked like I was trying to be smarter than I actually am. So even though it would be proper, once, twice, and 3 times is probably smoother for this type of story. It won't stand out except to people who know that thrice is the proper way to say that. But even then, they may not think that it works here, or they just think I'm too dumb to know that. And either way is fine as long as it doesn't break the flow of the story. On the third hit, something splintered, but the door still held. The first zombies reached the bottom of the stairs and started an awkward negotiation up toward him. A fourth and fifth strike Fourth and fifth strike separated the door from its frame. On the sixth impact from his shoulder, no, let me fix that. On the sixth impact from his shoulder, once, twice, three times a zombie. There you go, buddy. On the sixth impact, from his shoulder, the door burst inward. All right. Glass and hardware fell on both sides as Waldo stumbled into the foyer. All right, we'll just leave it at that. I was going to get into more descriptions of tile and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know that that's important. All right. Inside, mailboxes. Let's say inside brass mailboxes. Brass mailbox doors lined one wall. A few stood open with the keys abandoned in the lock. Someone had decided to check their mail one more time. Black and white tile floor covered in a film of gray dirt stretched to the stairs ahead. All right, now we got a picture there. As the zombies behind him reached this top of the stone exterior steps, two undead figures wandering the foyer turned and greeted Waldo. Let me see. Let's make it a new paragraph. He charged forward. Shoving the pair in two different directions as he took the stairs two at a time. His first step gave a little. Let's make this more specific. He's taking the stairs two at a time. The second step gave a little. The fourth snapped through, and everything behind him fell as he lunged off the sixth step. he landed on his, no, let's say he slid on his knees. Alright, I got 2 he's in there. That does not count as an extra word toward my word count. Alright, he slid on his knees across the first landing as the staircase collapsed into the basement under them, under the building. The zombies crossed the foyer lobby, I guess you call it, and tumbled through where the steps should have been. Good enough. If he was here to save the girl on the second floor, he should have kept going. Above the growls of zombies dumping like lemmings into the basement, he heard commotion on the next floor up. Let's say, but everything caught up with him at once. His lungs hurt. His gut burned. His folded legs cramped under him, and his eyes felt heavy. His eyelids felt heavy. Another crash sounded from above. Something clicked behind him. Waldo took a moment to work his right arm out of his sleeve. The material clung to him from the drenching of sweat that had soaked through dark. Alright, let's fix that. It's soaked through dark. The covering of gore over his right arm that seemed stuck there like glue did not help either. Once he was free of the sleeve, he unshouldered the pack hidden underneath on that side. With his left arm still in its sleeve, and his and the strap of the pack still over his left shoulder. Alright, I got two hisses there. I'll go back and edit and find out that 10,000 of my words were just ones I repeated by accident. With his left arm still in its sleeve and the strap of the pack, not, I could say backpack, but I'm just going to say pack, of the pack still over his left shoulder under the shirt, he swung it around to his side and unzipped. It was all there. He ran his hands through to be sure nothing was broken, and it appeared everything was intact. That was good, since getting since getting this stuff back to the others was the most important thing he could ever do with his life. A couple zombies found their way up the edge of the staircase near, let's say, the broken staircase. The broken staircase near the banister. I'll say railing. Near the railing. One slipped and took the other down with it. The crashes below had turned to thumps. Let's say muffled thumps. Turned to muffled thumps as the zombies piled up down there. Still, it was too close for his comfort. Waldo reshouldered his pack. He winced from a bruise on that side he hadn't noticed before. Alright, this is something that I do with just about any story that I write. And it's a choice I make, and it may not be the right choice, but this is what I do. So he has a bruise on one of his shoulders. Now that bruise, I know as the writer, is from him trying to smash through the door earlier. So he's throwing his shoulder into the door, breaks into the lobby, runs up here all the falling staircase, and checks his pack for whatever this stuff is that is so important that he's fighting his way through the city for. And so just as a side business, as he's putting his arm back into the strap for the backpack, he notices a bruise on his shoulder. Now, if we're paying attention to this story, we know he just busted through a door, and if I were just doing this normally, then I would have him say that was from the door. I'm busting through that door. I'm getting too old for this, or whatever it is. But every once in a while, I like to inject realism with the idea that him busting through the door left a bruise, but he also doesn't necessarily hold in his mind where that came from. So all the time people wake up and find bruises on themselves where they ran into a table or something. At the moment they remember it, later they don't. So with him running for his life from zombies and crashing over cars and everything else, he could have gotten a bruise from anywhere. Now this, I know this is from the door, but I'm just going to leave it in there, and then any reader that happens to go through and see that he has a bruise may remember, oh yeah, he just busted through the door, of course he has a bruise. But the fact that the character's too busy to pay attention to that kind of gives the reader something more. I do have a philosophy that I trust the reader, so I try not to give every piece of information, like over explain everything. Now that can backfire in the sense that like you don't give the reader enough and they don't understand what's happening, what's going on. Here it really doesn't matter. If you happen to remember that he just busted through a door, so obviously his shoulder is bruised, then you got that little piece. If you just read this line and he's got a bruise from somewhere, well, thinking back to all the things that have happened to him, that makes perfect sense, and it doesn't hurt the story at all. So it's kind of one of those things that I throw in there to kind of trust the reader to draw their own conclusions about what's going on and that kind of thing. So I try to do as much of that as I can, but not maybe overdo it to where nothing important is explained, that kind of stuff. All right, so he winced from a bruise on that side he hadn't noticed before. All right, so he put the pack back on. Feeding his sticky arm back. No, I don't need back again. I use back too many times. Through the sweaty sleeve was not the most unpleasant thing he had to do during the zombie apocalypse. A certain over affectionate zombie's toe came to mind, but it wasn't fun. Okay. All right. There's another line I want to put in here. But I'm going to put that in later. I got another little gross thing I want to put in there, but I want to hold off on that as I kind of push forward here. So I'm just making a note to myself to add it later. But it wasn't fun. Okay. Collapse through. Takes time to check the pack. Alright, don't say what's in the backpack. More zombies bypassed the pit in the stairs without tripping up. So Waldo took to his feet with some effort and mounted the next set of stairs to the second floor. To the second floor. All right. Let's say he had heard noises up here, and he believed the girl's ledge had been out a second floor window. So I'll say story. I'm going to say floor a bunch of times, so might as well use story now. A second story window. Waldo whispered Hey. Doors banged as zombies lurched out from more than one room up and down the hall. Others approached from behind on the stairs. Okay. He jumped the banister and ran up toward the third floor. Running up the stairs tended to be a bad idea in horror movies and in real life after the zombies rose. Okay. Because, of course, for him, this is real life. All right. Moving right along. Okay. Of course, they followed. With all the noise they made, zombies hanging out on the in the third floor hall turned to see who was visiting. It was their favorite, a stupid human with a beating heart to keep the meat warm for them. All right. A little self-deprecating there for him. Okay. With the hall blocked off. All right, let's spell some things right, Jay. With the hall blocked off, Waldo dashed through the one open door he saw with nothing undead coming out. Same paragraph maybe? Okay. He found... No, we'll do a different paragraph. You pass through a doorway, you need to be in a new paragraph. Alright. He found himself in an apartment. One doorway led off to a hall on the right. The big room consisted of an open kitchen dining table, and a sitting area with lots of light from the tall windows. Maybe that was why all these zombies were hanging out in here. All right. 4 zombies. Now, let's say 4 undead family members rose from the table. Chairs scooted. One fell over with a crash. The larger of the men bumped the table with his hip, and the thick film of fuzzy mold over the plates shook with the vibration. Say 2 others rose from a couch facing the mounted TV, separating themselves from the ruined fabric. Came with a ripping noise. Let's say one other reanimated man, the tallest of all of them, stood with his arms limp at his sides and just stared out the window without acknowledging any sort of disturbance. He wore overalls with the straps looped down around his hips, and a checkered flannel shirt. Not what Waldo expected in the city. Even as more zombies crashed through the door into the apartment, that lone, tall figure never wavered from his vigil out the window. Alright, so let's move Waldo around this room as he dodges some zombies. Alright. Alright. The doorway. Let's get Waldo moving. Waldo cut to his right as the doorway clogged with too many trying to pass through at once. Waldo cut to his right as the doorway clogged with too many trying to pass through at once. All right. The door frame broke. Plaster crumbled part. I want to say here. Slat boards snapped. Alright, that's 2 words I'm going to assume. Slat boards snapped and thin wisps of insulation floated around the bodies. The bodies filing through the wider opening. Okay. For what I got planned, it's important that pieces of this building are constantly falling apart. So that's going to justify some stuff I got going on later. All right. Let's say, all right, he rounded a counter and tried to cut through the kitchen. He had to get out one door or window soon, but he didn't know which. He didn't know which yet. One zombie from the table tripped over a chair. Now again, I mentioned that a chair fell down. I didn't say that was the chair he fell over, but you know, people kind of keeping a map in their head might say, oh yeah, one chair fell over, maybe he tripped over that one. So I leave it to the reader to kind of build the picture in their head. And so putting these pieces down and then using them in subtle ways, I think adds something to the story, especially if someone's, you know, really keeping track of the details. So one zombie from the table tripped over a chair and sprawled over the granite island. So I guess this is a very nice apartment building. All right, over the granite island, its splayed hands scattered containers and cooking utensils off onto the tiled section of the floor. So apparently this apartment has more than one type of flooring, which you might see in a semi-fancy neighborhood. All right, onto the tiled section of floor. As it raised up off the island, it bumped a suspended rack, causing pots and pans to bang together. That noise helped the other zombies, still getting their bearings in the filling apartment, to locate Waldo. All right, there he is. All right, I think that's a good piece of business. Let's keep this rolling. All right, around the corner, cooking utensils. Let's say his boot slid on a spatula, and he went down, driving his knee into the door of the oven. Okay. Now, of course, we need something explosive to happen. Black, wiry glass shattered out across the floor. Black, wiry, okay, let me fix that. Black, wiry glass shattered out across the floor in the finest pieces of debris. There was an old cardboard pizza box inside the oven. All right. So again, nothing significant about that box, but I thought it'd be a detail that'd be interesting. He regained his feet, but stumbled into the door of the refrigerator. The compressor in the back gave a tinkling metal sound. All right, there we go. I think that's good enough. All right, so we hit the refrigerator. Okay, there we go. Something, this is going to be a little gross, I apologize in advance. Something hard and furry struck his head from, no, I'm about to do a micro chronology problem there. It's okay. From off the top. Something hard and furry struck his head. Okay. He found the thing in his hands, and it was a petrified cat. Alright, again, sorry about that, guys. Deep bite marks. Bite marks, one word. Deep bite marks. Yep. Gouged through its fur into its dark body. Okay. The feline's mouth was frozen open, and it stared up at Waldo with its dead black marble eyes. Okay. Again, very sorry everybody. I got nothing against cats. We're just we're in an apocalypse here. All right. He threw the petrified thing over his shoulder into the face of a barefoot zombie behind him, as the creature, say as the undead creature, tracked through the sharp black sand of the exploded oven door. The zombie did not react. Zombie did not react to being hit in the face. With a cat, nor to the glass powder slicing up the soles of his feet. Okay. Alright, we got that. Okay. Sprinting out of the kitchen, Waldo, yeah, that's right. Waldo shoved. No, let's say Waldo knocked. I've already done shoved. Waldo knocked a zombie into the table, tipping it over onto its side. It rolled. Now, I don't want to say rolled because I didn't say it was a round table, but I'll just leave it at that. Let's say rotten food with hairy mold like rabbit fur. Let's say ruffled, like ruffled rabbit fur. We'll get this mold super gross. Like ruffled rabbit fur over it, stayed stuck to the sideways surface. It stayed stuck to the sideways surface without budging. Alright, so that meal is so super molded it's stuck to the table. Pretty awesome. Alright, moving along here. A few more grabbed at him and shoved Waldo into the wall. Alright. Orange flowered wallpaper. Wallpaper tore. And the plaster disintegrated into 2 craters under his elbows. All right. So again, I'm breaking up pieces of this apartment to set up what we might have going on later. All right. So all right. A picture fell loose from above, hitting his head and shoulders with the weight of an effing bookshelf. It was worse than that damn rock hard cat. Okay. Probably this is hyphenated. I'm going to keep it 2 words. All right. That damn rock hard cat. Okay. Waldo fumbled the frame trying to get out from under it. All right. The crowd was too close now. Waldo slammed the heavy picture over the heads of the three monsters closest to him. Alright, so what is this picture we have here? Their decaying heads stuck out from the necks of three of the dogs playing poker. You don't see dogs playing poker pictures as much as you used to. They used to be a funny little novelty, and now you don't see them much anymore, but we brought them back here. Around his feet, below the edge of that big frame, he felt and heard things crawling around his feet. Waldo shoved the zombies in their painting away so he could see to fight. Alright, now let's describe these things around him. A withered zombie woman in a soiled nightgown. A chewed apart kid in leg braces. And an old man with a purple and leaking potbelly, with his legs shredded to the bones down below his thighs. All tried to get a piece of Waldo's legs. Alright, so we got these three zombies that are clearly crawling for their own reasons. Okay. He flat-footed jumped up and over them to get to a clear spot in the crowded apartment floor so he could try to maneuver out of this still. Okay, so Waldo is still fighting. Things aren't looking great for him, but he's been in some tough spots all the way through here, so let's see what he does next. Alright, he landed awkward. We'll just make it the adverb. He landed awkwardly against the tipped table. Alright, so we're bringing this furniture back into the discussion here. he snapped off a table leg with one shin as his gore and zombie brain covered arm, let's say right hand, covered right hand, raked through the moldy meal, suspended to the plates on the sideways table. Alright, pretty gross stuff. As his fingers plowed through the cold gray rot, cold gray clay of rot, his gorge rose in the back of his throat, but he managed to keep it all down for now. Okay. All right. The apartment was still filling and was well past the capacity where neighbors would call the cops. Not anymore, though. Alright. There we go. Moving right along here. Alright. Crashes and the sound of breaking furniture. Crashes and the sound of breaking furniture came from everywhere. A pot or pan. Okay, a pot or pan clanged off the island. Alright, clanged off the island to the floor. There were too many undead bodies between him and the kitchen to see it happen. Okay, there we go. Now we kind of have an idea of how busy this place is getting. So what you got going for you? No way out the door he came in, but maybe he could make the doorway to the back hall if he was lucky and determined. All right. Okay. Waldo grabbed up the broken table leg from between his boots It wasn't thick or heavy, but it had a little heft to it. He had not been terribly lucky with makeshift weapons so far today. He stepped around the ones crawling on the floor and swung through the head of the next one standing, splitting it open and sending the scaly blue corpse crashing to the floor without most of its brain. Alright, now we'll go to the next paragraph. Stepping over. Alright, let me have him put, let's say that felt good. This is the first time he really got a good hit on a zombie this entire adventure. Alright, so now he's pumped. Stepping over. He went for another head on the backswing. Alright, let's put a scalping a burly zombie. Scalping a burly zombie. That had green drool oozing into his shaggy beard. How's that for a detail? Alright. Waldo and his table leg. Waldo and his table leg. Alright. Alright, Waldo and his table leg clipped off everything above the bearded zombie's bushy eyebrows. Waldo and his table leg clipped off everything above the bearded zombie's bushy eyebrows. He folded straight down into a heap on the floor. Waldo advanced, and his third table leg swing was overhand. Overhand, overhead. There you go. How was that for a word combination? That's got some rhythm to it, don't you think? Alright, third swing, overhand, overhead. His club came down hard. Through the scalp and head of a large woman. Say large undead woman. I want to make it clear that he's not just running around beating up women. I mean, come on. His club came down hard through the scalp and head of a large undead woman, with a brown and purple scarf that vanished into the mash of her exposed brains. Oh, that for description. There you go. Either she was more fragile than she looked. Either she was more fragile than she looked, or he had hit much harder than he expected. But Waldo managed to divide her right down the middle, part way into her chest. It was there that his table leg splintered in his hands, and he let the pieces fall away from his grasp. Okay, as she fell left, he dodged right. He could see the doorway and had a clear shot if he hurried. But he stepped into a pan and slid along the floor. He still hurried. But slammed into the door frame and had to reclaim his balance. All right, thank you guys for your patience, except Armand, who found it unacceptable, and Tom, who was supposed to write in silence. I do appreciate it, though. I have, incidentally, I have kind of like three ways that my kids can communicate with me while I'm streaming, depending on what's going on. If it's not an emergency and it can wait, they can text me, and then if I can break away to help them real quick, I'll do what I just did just now. It wasn't an emergency, but it was something that I could help them with. And if it's not an emergency but it's important, they can knock on the door, and then I'll put up the be right back sign. If it's an emergency, they're just supposed to open the door, and I'll knock off the camera or whatever I need to do as fast as I can. We'll deal with whatever it is. Fortunately, it wasn't an emergency, but they've been very patient with me with all the streaming that I've been doing. So I figured, they don't ask for things very often. So when they sent a message, I figured I'd go help real quick, just so they weren't waiting on me all that time. And I have been doing a lot of streaming. Incidentally, this is my 40th straight day of streaming. So I did, my regular writing streams leading up to October. I did movies all through October, and I've been doing NaNoWriMo now for 6 days, and that's added up to 40 days. So I'm pretty proud of that. Dad, we need the shovels to bury this body, and Mommy is busy. No, fortunately, it wasn't anything like that. And if anyone was getting rid of a body around here, it would probably be my body that was gotten rid of. Although I can't imagine that my family couldn't make it look like self-defense if they were trying to get rid of me. But that's all speculation. Nothing. I behave myself very well because I know I'm a kept man. All right, so we're real close to 15,000 words, so let's hammer this on out. So what was he doing last? As she fell left, he dodged right. That makes sense. He could see the doorway and had a clear shot if he hurried, but he stepped into a pan and slid along the floor. He still hurried, but slammed into the doorway and had to reclaim his balance. The zombies didn't offer him the benefit of the doubt. I know that I'm using that incorrectly, but I think it's funny. All right. Waldo got his foot off the pan and started wailing. What kind of wailing is that? Is that the kind of wailing you would use if you were hitting somebody in the head with a pan, or is it WAIL? I'm gonna leave it that way and then go back and fix it later. If anybody knows which kind of wailing it is when you're wailing someone in the head of with a pan, speaking of hiding bodies, let me know. Waldo got his foot off the pan and started wailing away at the leering zombie heads around him. It made a beautiful clanging, let's say ringing. Ringing would be more beautiful than clanging. A beautiful ringing tone with each strike, and staggered the zombies one way or the other. It was a quality piece of cookware, but none of those heads split open, so he still had the same number of zombies to contend with as before. All right, same number of zombies to contend with as before. He tried a slicing swing to catch one of them in the temple with the metal edge. The skull dented deep as the creature tumbled. Let's say somersaulted. I've said tumbled a lot. Somersaulted. No way I spelled that right on the first try. Oh man, I'm so glad I'm doing this on stream. I'm a god among men, I guess. The skull dented deep as the creature somersaulted into a kitchen cabinet. Still not finished off, though. The pan's body skid across the tile one way, and the broken handle spun out of his grasp onto the hardwood the other way. It wasn't as quality as he first thought. Waldo wheeled about and entered the back hall. There was no way out of here either. All right. That's gotten to be a pretty long chapter, so I'm going to break it there, but keep going because I'm not at 15,000 words. That is a long chapter. That's all right. So we're at chapter 8, and this will be chapter 9 then. That's how numbers work, isn't it? 9 follows 8. Any experts out there want to tell me? All right, so chapter 9. Let's start this. Okay. Got to smashing the pan. Okay. I want to add one more line up here. You got to have some good action movie lines. It felt good. Splintered in his hands and let the pieces fall out of his grasp. It was fun while it lasted. There we go. That's a good action movie line. All right. Now, chapter 9. I'm serious about chapter 9 now. We're going to dive right on here. More zombies poured out. More zombies, let's say shifted out of 4 bedroom doors. A 4-bedroom apartment? Nice. All right. That left him an open bathroom door. Chapter 9. Okay, that left him an open bathroom door. Chapter 9. More zombies. Of course. That left him an open bathroom door and a window off to one side. A blackened skeleton in draping rags hung from one shard of the broken window, of the broken glass. Waldo considered 2-story drop. No, 3 stories. No, 3 stories. He'd gone up one more floor. Chapter 14, more rom-com fun. I know you guys aren't making fun of the greatest zombie story ever told. There's always more zombies, though. Waldo considered 2-story drop. No, 3 stories. He'd gone up one more floor. Then there was jagged glass. Even if he just wanted to get out on a ledge away from here. As fingers grazed his back, he charged into the bathroom. Waldo spun around to slam the door and close himself into the confined darkness. All right. Waldo spun around and to slam the door and close himself into the confined darkness, but they piled into the door before he could latch it. He tried to square up and press it closed, but their dead weight won out and threw him backward into the wall. Actually, that might be a better end for chapter 8, but we'll see. Maybe I'll switch that out tomorrow. All right, we are at 15,059 words, which is just on pace for my 20-day completion of NaNoWriMo. If you were on a 30-day pace, then you should have 10,000 words today. How do I know that? Because 6 times 5 is 30, and then 50,000 words, which you're trying to reach, divided by 5 is 10. So every 6 days you should have 10,000 words. Isn't that something for a math genius, such as myself? All right, not myself, but someone like me. All right, so let's take a peek at well, let's take a peek at nothing because I didn't pull it up. So hold on just here a second. You can watch my face as I get this open. All right, so I want to go to NaNoWriMo. All right, I want to pull this away so that it's not on the rest of my links. All right, here we are. So I open my profile, and now I want to update. Total words 15,059. I am very happy with my progress. Update there. Would you look at that? So amazing. All right, so let's take a look at some of my buddies here today. Too much math. Sorry, man. Sorry. I know no one got into this for the math. All right, so let's take a look at... Can I see my buddies here? Oh, here they are. All right. John Quick, we talked about yesterday, and he has been very humble in trying to explain to us that he actually started on like the 30th or the 31st, so he doesn't want all that credit for being 17,140 words. He also says he's not officially doing NaNoWriMo, he's just kind of keeping track. So I think he was embarrassed by the praise, but go back and watch that yesterday, the 5th's check-in video, and you can see some of the books that he wrote. Still doing a great job, still going to praise him, even though he wants us to understand he's not officially doing Nano according to the rules. So everybody has been warned, as John Quick desired. Armand Rosamalia, who I appreciate being here on the stream. All right. He is at 15,020 words, so I assume he's done his writing today. That's today's update. If you're going to write more today, let me know, Armand. Again, well on pace for a 20-day completion of 50,000 words. But with the First Coast Thriller series, I believe he's doing 60,000 plus words. So he's keeping that pace in order to hit that 60,000 word goal, I believe. And he is well on pace for that. So excellent job, Armand. We're all very, very proud of you here on Twitch. I'm speaking for entirely Twitch. I'm working on the second book now and trying to finish that book too. You're doing both books at the same time? That's interesting. It's also interesting because you kind of know what's going through each one. I assume you have book one done because that one's up for pre-order. So it's interesting to me that you're working on both books at the same time. All right. Back to my face, and let's see who else we can check in on. Ryan J. Pelton is still cruising right along. I still haven't asked him what it stands for. He says, yeah, I have 14K to finish on the second book. First book is done. Okay. That's interesting. Has what you've written for the third book impacted what you're doing to finish up the second one, or is that unrelated? I'm interested because it's an interesting way to write, doing more than one book at a time like that. All right, Ryan Pelton is at 13,672 words. Very good job, very far ahead of pace for a 30-day finish. So excellent job there, sir. All right. Jumping back to my buddies, let's see what Tom Duffy's doing. Right now he's kind of in on here talking to me a little bit as he's writing, so I appreciate that, and has been doing an excellent job. Again, I'm not sure if he's completely updated today because, of course, if he's writing now, he's got more words to add. Armand says, yeah, I have to be careful to not screw up the smaller plots. We'll never do this again. Do it again like this. Well, sometimes the lesson you learn is not to do something a certain way. All right, Light Fantastic by Tom Duffy. He's at 13,423 words, well ahead of a 30-day pace, and I am certain that he is not done with his writing either. If he's still on, he can let us know if he's still writing and where he thinks he'll be by the end of the day. All right. Checking on a few other folks. Tomorrow I'm probably going to take a look at... He's not finished writing for today yet. These guys are determined to show me up. I think that's what this is all about. I'm going to take a look at probably the Godless site tomorrow and look at some of the friends I have on here and the work they're doing there. So that may be up in the offering there. All right. Oh, my Lord. Will somebody look at Chuck Buddha? What? Do you guys see this? Chuck Buddha is at 10,610 words. I assume he's telling the truth. I have no reason to think that he would falsely update his NaNoWriMo just for the sake of these updates. But a 10,000 word pace is on pace. He had started out with 1,000. He had a couple days where he needed to catch up. He hit 2,000 words in one day. And apparently... he has done 7,000 words since then and got to 10,610 words, which is on pace. I am so proud of Chuck Buddha. Armand says that Chuck imbibed a little bit yesterday, listened to something that I don't know what that is, and wrote. That's what he told him. So whatever works, man. Whatever works. He's apparently using the Hemingway method of catching up on NaNoWriMo. But that is amazing. That is one of the greatest things. This is the greatest story of NaNoWriMo so far. I'm sure there's millions of other people doing amazing things, but just Chuck Buddha has poured down the awesome and is getting it done. I'm not even sure what he's writing, what story he's writing. I love his Son of Earp series. So I don't know what book this is, but he is on track to hit that 50,000 words by the end of the month. Maybe it's going to be done in lurches like this as he goes along, big bursts of activity. But being back on pace, it's going to be what he's done over the last couple of days. Staying on pace is going to be so much easier than what he had to do to catch up. A lot of people can't ever catch up on NaNoWriMo, so that is absolutely amazing. I am excited to see that today. Everybody who's a friend of Chuck Buddha, make sure to congratulate him on all that. He had some personal stuff a couple of days he had to deal with, but he said he's back working it. That's excellent. And something always comes up. There's always something that comes along, and you just have to get back on when you can. And a lot of times that doesn't mean catching up, but just getting back to it. Chuck Buddha got back to it and caught up. So I'm amazed with his progress there. Let's jump back in with Oscar Jones again. We checked on him yesterday, And he too is at 10,506 words. So staying well on track to be done in 30 days. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about demons and disaster. So I may ask him about that coming up here soon. All right. Let's see if there's anybody else we want to check in. Since I'm not doing looking at people's books, then I can hit on everybody here. Okay. Alex from Iowa, 9,500 words. I don't know if he's done for today, but he's right there, right on track with a 30-day pace. So maybe he'll get 500 more words in today. Maybe he'll hit a few extra tomorrow, but he's right there in the running. So excellent job there, buddy. Appreciate your hard work. All right, let's see if there's anybody else want to jump on here today. A few people catching up. I want to talk about Bill Fisher. I don't know how many of you know him. Just scrolling down to a few folks that aren't doing NaNoWriMo. Bill Fisher, I know from the world. I believe I know him from the world of the Godless site and extreme horror and some things like that. He's writing a story called Tales of the Break Room, which is horror and supernatural. Had some things going on as well and just got started. So I think it was maybe even just yesterday was his first day of writing, and he got 3,238 words. So we're gonna set aside pace for now and just say on his first jump into NaNoWriMo, he hit over 3,000 words. Keeping that kind of pace, he can get a lot done if he chooses to. If he doesn't get all the way to the 50,000 in this month, he'll be close enough to where he can finish off 50,000 by early December or whenever he decides to keep going. If he decides to keep up a sharp pace like that, he can definitely catch up and pass over as well. So just wanted to give a shout out to Bill Fisher, who has come in when he was able to and is running up. I follow him on social media, so kind of saw some bits and pieces of all the misadventures that were going on around him that he was having to solve before he could really sit down and write. But the important thing, of course, is that writers are writing, and I think that should be the point of NaNoWriMo, even bigger than the goals. But that being said, you got some guys that have come back from some distractions and life stuff that couldn't be ignored and have come in a big way, and that's huge. The worst thing that can happen with NaNoWriMo, and that happens too often, is discouragement. And I'm so proud of these guys. I hope that doing these updates has been encouraging as well, and those who are writing while they're listening in and all of that. We're creating stories for people, and when we get them finished, it's really cool to know that we kind of work together and encouraged each other to make those things a reality.